What's going on, everyone? I figured I would go ahead and finally do my Alienware M18x R2 update video. This is almost a year later now. As you can see, my unboxing videos from July of last year. So a lot of people have requested updates, if you will. I've gotten a lot of messages, private messages on YouTube from people curious to see if the system is still, completely functional, if it's dated, whatever. Basically, I love the system. I love it as much today as I did when I first received it. It's awesome. It does not feel dated whatsoever. So, when you get a system like this, you're probably a gamer. Now, the two 680Ms in this system are fantastic for the types of games that I play and my preference with gaming. I don't need to push the limits graphically. I pretty much like games running at their maximum capacity, but as long as it's a frame rate that I can't notice any tearing or noticeable lag, I'm fine with that. Like around 30 frames per second, 32, something like that. That looks great to me, okay? And I'm also not interested in making sure that the crack on the toilet between the floor and the wall is perfectly anti-aliased, in some bathroom that you'll never walk into in the game. Like, I don't care about stuff like that. So, will it run Crysis? Yes, it will run Crysis fantastically on the highest settings. As far as future-proof goes, who knows? Crytek is really the last company I can think of who just really tries to push that envelope. I know that Metro, what is it? The new one is like Metro 2033, but the one before that supposedly pushes it more than Crysis. But I think that was only because of the anti-aliasing technology that they use, and it's honestly pretty dated and terrible. So, that brings up another point that I like to do. By the way, this is my cat. Everyone liked Jinx in the first video, so I figured I would take the funniest little still here and leave that up so that when I'm just sitting here talking and droning on about points, you've got at least something funny to look at. But anyway, I like to make utilization of the NVIDIA control panel. I'll tweak out some of my games through here completely, and Borderlands, for instance. This is a great one for using FXAA. And so using something like FXAA instead of some of the older anti-aliasing technologies is a great way to save system resources. Make the most of what you've got without pushing it, to creating Chernobyl under your palms in this form factor of a laptop. You know what I mean? So anyway, NVIDIA control panel, love it. It's great. Now, 32 gigs of RAM I have in this system, which a lot of people are like, that's overkill. In most cases, yes, I would agree. Most people do not need 32 gigs of RAM. 16 gigs of RAM is probably pushing it for most people. Personally, I use virtual machines, okay? I have a couple of virtual environments that I like to run, and I give those enough CPU and RAM so that it feels like the systems are native instead of virtual. And it just so happens I have a couple up here. Mountain Lion, which is sleeping. Let me log in here. Here's Mountain Lion. I've got it tied to my account. Xcode. Create a new Xcode project. Everything works beautifully. And yeah, so essentially, let's go over Windows 8. I have an instance of Windows 8 here up. All right. Let's go back to the home. Let's go to the desktop. You know. So I have 8 gigs of RAM allocated to every virtual environment that I have. And it just so happens I'm running these two at the same time, and they're not both sapping up that much RAM continuously, you know. VMware does a good job of only allocating the resources that are needed. You set the ceiling, and then if it needs it, it'll go up to it. But anyway, so I'm sitting here running these off of the same drive that this video is writing to that I'm recording right now, you know. So that brings up another point. I'm going to go into that in a second with my drives. But long story short, 32 gigs of RAM, necessary for me, may not be necessary for you. No big deal. That brings up the drives. Okay, when I ordered this system, I ordered it specifically with the weakest components I could get that I knew I was going to upgrade myself to save money. Okay, so the hard drive, I wanted the cheapest, lowest quality hard drive I could get in this thing from Dell. DVD drive, 8 gigs of RAM. I think that's pretty much it. But anyway, so 32 gigs of RAM. I bought an SSD. I bought an mSATA SSD, which is what this is, the OS and my applications and games. I have them on a little mSATA, which for those of you who do not know, it's one of these things. And basically there's a slot on the motherboard that you slide this thing into. And if you want to get one of these, be aware right now that you're going to need this tiny, tiny, tiny little screw. There's not one waiting for you by this slot. They don't come with these. What I had to do is, you know, I bought a Blu-ray burner. I bought, you know, this mSATA. I bought another SSD. I bought the RAM. So I took this thing apart and upgraded all these components at once. Well, when I did that, there's a bracket that screws around the outside of whatever optical drive you have, right? So you have your drive, but then there's this bracket that you have to screw into the sides and back of it that like fits into your system. Well, there was one place where I figured one of those screws wasn't necessary. So I took one of those out and I used it for this on the motherboard, and it worked perfectly, okay? So just be aware of that if you plan on doing that. Let me bring up Jinx again. Back to the drives. I've got the drive that came with the system, which ended up being a 7200 RPM drive because they like upgraded me a couple of components a little bit to knock down the price for whatever. It was weird how they did it. But that's what I use for my storage. I need to free up some space. And I kept the recovery drive. So the OS that it came with on here, which was Windows 7 Pro, that's still installed on here. I have it just in case the OS I have on the mSATA fails for some reason, then I'll still have this on the HDD, okay? But then the SSD that I got, the regular laptop-sized hard drive or solid-state drive, that's for my virtual machine images here, for my renders, for recording music, video, fraps, recording in-game footage, 1080p, full resolution, full frames, like, well, I think I keep it down to 30 frames per second because that's like the max that YouTube shows videos right now, and that's fine. So anyway, I could push it to more. Elgato, this is a little system that basically you can hook up to your console, the HDMI connection, and then that goes into this little device, the Elgato device, and then that goes into your computer, and you can record like game footage, or like if you're on your iPad, you can record that footage. So that's a pretty cool little system there. Camtasia, which is what I'm using to record this right now, and the video is writing to this while I have these virtual machines up. You know, it's great having this solid state drive dedicated just to that. It's perfect. All right, so that's pretty much the setup that I have going on here, and everything works great. I don't have anything overclocked. I ran the Windows Index score, Experience Index, or whatever. Some people love the clout associated with a 7.9 showing up here. I don't care because these scores are just whatever. The processor, I could overclock that just a tiny bit to get this to 7.9. The RAM, I don't have the fastest speed RAM going on. I have 32 gigs of DDR3 1600, I believe, or 16,000, whatever it is. I can't think of it right now. But primary hard disk, which is that mSATA. Now, this is one point that I wanted to bring up. On the motherboard, I do not think the slot that this fits into is SATA 3 capable. I think it's only a 2. And because of that, this suffers, like 0.1. It's fine. It's a solid state drive. It's blazing fast. It works great. I'm not concerned about it. So anyway, you know, I consider this a 7.9 system, but whatever you want to say, Microsoft, do it up. It's all good. And that's pretty much it. I mean, everything works great. It doesn't feel old. It doesn't feel dated. It's very reliable. I've had a couple of random crashes happen, but, you know, definitely not related to the system. You know, it's, as you can see in my taskbar here, I have tons of stuff going on, and this is just the stuff that I access, you know, on a regular basis. So I'm definitely installing lots of applications and drivers and yada, yada, yada. So outside of a couple of random crashes, this system has been super reliable. It looks great. I've got tons of haters, man, on YouTube. Just haters, hating, haterade, hating all over the place. I don't care. You take this thing somewhere, it's heavy. It's like 12 pounds or something like that. That's fine with me. I've got the backpack. It's all good. You take this somewhere and set it up, everyone notices this thing, and they come over, oh, it's cool, you know, like, that's all good and fine, but it's when you have a real, like, you know, geek in the room that realizes the power that's in this thing, and then you can start showing that off, and, you know, at that point, who gives a crap that you can save $400 or whatever if you go with Origin or Sager or Sager, however you pronounce that, you know, like, at the end of the day, I'm happy to have this configuration. And for those of you who are wondering, yes, you can save money if you go with a custom boutique. The reason I chose not to do that is twofold. One, I hate that plain black shell that all the custom boutiques use. You know, pay another $200-300 and they'll like airbrush some design on the back of it that you want, or the top of it, you know, whatever, or create the laminate or sticker or whatever it is they do. I love the Alienware brushed aluminum, you know, red anodized. It just looks great, man. It's awesome. Next, and most importantly, that's just like a superficial reason. I did not have the liquid assets to lay down for a custom boutique. You're not going to get a credit deal with them like you can with Dell. I got a really good deal with them, and then the rest of what I couldn't put on that, I put on a credit card. So, you know, I've been paying for this, and in the end, I will have paid a bit more money than even what I bought it from for Dell at a slightly more expensive cost than going with a custom boutique. That's okay, because I had to do what I had to do with my situation to land a system like this. And it just makes me infinitely happy still to this day. Love the system. Don't regret a bit getting it or not being able to go with another custom boutique. I foresee this lasting me another 2 or 3 years at least. You know, I mean, by that point, I'm probably going to be able to have overclocked the CPU and the GPUs to keep up with, you know, maybe next year's late great whatever, you know, maybe not. but it's all good. I'll, you know, cross that bridge when I come to it. So yeah, definitely get it if you know you need a system like this or that you want a system like this. Just go for it. Let all the people hate on you on YouTube because you didn't save a little bit of money going with a custom boutique. Let them hate, man. It's all good. Because when you're sitting there and you have this system in front of you, it's just, you know, you're in your world. You're doing what you want to do for the reasons that you got this system, and it's all good. So just a short little update here. I hope that appeases those of you who have been keeping up with my channel or maybe saw my first video. And I'll bring up Jinxie Cat one more time here. Probably put him in another video soon. Rate, comment, subscribe. Feel free to ask any additional questions you may have. I'm happy to try to answer whatever. Haters gonna hate. Feel free to hate away on here. It's all good. I love my system. Yeah, it's all good. So thanks again for watching, and I'll be back with some video game footage from something here soon to show off more of the prowess that this laptop is still capable of a year later. Talk to you later.